We've all done it. Put on a slightly different face for a job interview, or maybe a first date, or even just to get through a holiday dinner with the family, right? But what happens when that mask stops being something you put on and off, and it just becomes your face? Today, we're diving into the really high cost of pretending and the absolutely massive amount of work it takes to live a life that isn't actually yours.
And that's really the question at the heart of all this, isn't it? Why? What is it that pushes us to build this other version of ourselves for the world to see? Are we looking for acceptance, trying to stay safe, or just trying to get ahead? Before we break it all down, just take a second and think about it for yourself. Why do you sometimes pretend?
All right, let's talk about this word, grift. Now, usually when we think of a grift, we picture a con artist tricking someone out of their money. But what if the person you're conning is yourself? When we pretend to be someone we're not, we're basically running a grift on our own life, tricking ourselves out of the chance to be authentic. It's a pretty intense way to look at it, I know, but it really sets the stage for what's at stake here.
So let's start with the appeal. Why is this mask so tempting to put on in the first place? What's the draw?
Well, it really boils down to what we think we're going to get out of it. Putting on a persona can feel like putting on a suit of armor, you know? You feel stronger, less exposed. Think about someone who acts super aggressive and cutthroat at work because they think that's the only way to climb the ladder. By pushing their real, maybe more collaborative self aside, they create this character who seems totally invulnerable. And hey, if someone attacks the mask, they're not attacking the real you, right? It feels like a pretty clever defense. But that feeling of safety, man, it comes at a really steep price. And that's what we're going to get into next. The actual cost of living what's basically a life on loan from a person you don't even know.
And this question just cuts right to the chase. Just let that sink in. If you've built this whole life and everyone loves this version of you, but you yourself can't stand that person, whose life are you even living? Any praise you get feels so hollow because it's for the character you're playing, not for the person you actually are.
This really gets to the core trade-off. Your authentic self, that's your natural state. But yeah, it's also vulnerable. The pretend self, on the other hand, seems invincible, but it takes constant, non-stop work to keep it up. It is an exhausting 24/7 performance. You can never just relax, because the second you let your guard down, the mask could slip. It's a difference between just being and constantly doing. So for most people, the bottom line is the cost is just too high. The energy it takes, the anxiety, that constant internal battle you're fighting, it just becomes an unbearable weight. I mean, life is tough enough just being yourself, right? Who wants to build a whole fake world on top of that, knowing it could all come crashing down? And that unbearable weight, that pressure, it all leads to this really powerful central idea we're going to talk about now. The idea of the inevitable snap. Okay, think of your true self like a rubber band. Step one is the stretch. You put on the fake persona, and you stretch that rubber band way, way out from its natural shape. Step two is the tension. That's the constant pressure, that 24/7 performance we were just talking about, holding that band in that stretched out position. But here's the thing about a rubber band. It can only stretch for so long. And that brings us to step three, the snap. The unavoidable, powerful, and usually pretty chaotic return to who you really are. And the further and longer you've been stretching, the harder that snap is going to be. And the fallout from that snap? Oh, it is huge. It's not just some private realization you have. No, you literally have to undo an entire world that was built on that lie. All those friendships, the relationships, your job, your reputation, all of it was built around the mask. When the mask comes off, you're not just starting over. You're actually having to dismantle the entire life you built. So, if the mask is so expensive to maintain and the snap is so painful, what's the alternative? What are you supposed to do? Let's get into our last section and see where that leaves us. After all this, all the tension and the mess and the high cost, it really just comes down to this one question. What's the real answer here? And here it is. This is the whole thing, right here in this one quote. I'm just going to leave that there for a second. A truth whispered to oneself is louder than a lie shouted to the world. So what does that actually mean in practice? It means that quiet, internal honesty, that moment when you're just real with yourself about who you are, is infinitely more powerful than the loudest, most convincing fake performance you could ever give the world. It's a total shift in focus. Instead of always asking, what does everyone want me to be? You start asking, okay, who am I, really?
And when you're good with that, when you're honest with yourself, all the outside noise, the criticism, the praise, it just doesn't hit the same. Your foundation is on the inside, not the outside. And that is a much, much sturdier place to build a life.
And that really just leaves us with one final question to think about. Look at the masks you might wear in your own life, whether they're big or small, and just ask yourself, honestly, is the mask you're wearing really worth all the work it takes to keep it on?